Hello and welcome to Monday Mavericks. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I'm the executive director of OCD Gamechangers, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit raising awareness for OCD, creating community, breaking down barriers to help people get to treatment, to help people get to awareness about OCD, whatever we can do to help this community. I'm also a certified peer support specialist working with people worldwide, helping to support and connect them to referrals. I own OCD Peers right here, ocdpeers.com. There we go. And what else? Oh, I'm the author of Pure OCD, but I don't have the book here, so I'm not going to say, but I'm not going to show you. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I feel like I had a caffeine boost or something. I'm talking 10,000 miles.
I do the same. I do the same.
I'm really excited to have our guest on today, Marshall. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Well, as you said, thank you, Chrissy, for the platform. My name is Marshall Moses. Most people know me as. Some also know me as Soul Body Meta. I'm an artist. I'm a professional basketball player in Europe and various countries. Advocacy for mental health for reasons I'm pretty sure we'll get into tonight. Husband, father, and extreme nerd and intake a lot of information and have this dream to disperse it in a way that I have no idea what it's going to do for me in life, but that's pretty much the things I'm known for is everything I just listed. So.
I have learned
and I rap too.
you.
I make music. Sorry. I also make music too. You'll find that under the name Soul Body Meta also.
I've learned all of this stuff about you and just following you for like a month on social media. I love looking at your stories because you're either in the car reading books or rapping.
Yes. Yes. That is true. And in the gym, I'm in the gym a lot, but I've filmed that for years. So I kind of people probably tired of seeing that. So I'll show the other stuff.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And all the people here right now, Michael and Dave. Hey, everybody. Seeing Michael reminds me, actually, I need to tell y'all something, but it just escaped my mind. We have saved the date, May 29th. May 29th this year. We are doing our virtual oh my God, it's not in front of me. I'm forgetting it all. Our OCD Gamechangers retreat. So we are going to have a straight up support retreat, meaning we're trying to make it more about showing up for you, our community. That means people who have OCD. That means families that have OCD. That means therapists right now who are struggling in the pandemic as well. We're going to show up and support you. We ain't going to show up and talk down to you or panel chat to you. We're going to sit eye to eye and we're going to talk about how we can support you through this really, really rough time we've all been having in the last 6, 8, 12 months, because it's about a year right now that it all started. So save the date, y'all. May 29th. We're super excited about it. Tickets go on sale next Monday. So keep an eye out here on my Facebook page, my Instagram page, and our YouTube channel. Now, Marshall, let's get down to business, which is you. So the business of Marshall, talk to us a little bit about why you wanted to start opening up about mental health, and particularly OCD, if you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna be an open book. Mental health has been important to me because when I was a young kid, when I was a youth, probably really around 13 when it started, I started having just depression out of nowhere. I guess you would call it depression. I'm realizing the magnitude of these terms now, and so I'm trying to use them correctly. But that's what it felt like to me as a 13-year-old kid. Some form of depression, some form of why do I feel like this internal emotional funk, as they would call it. And I didn't think I would get out. Actually, what I ended up doing that my therapist told me was ERP in a way. But what I called it was, okay, if this is just life. I kind of just got tired of fighting it. And I would say this was just life. So I would go around kind of sad and all these questions about life and feeling like people wouldn't understand me if I tried to explain. And I got out of that. Life game well. I got to playing basketball and I dealt with it here and there. But for the most part, things were feeling amazing. And that's where my spark for advocacy for mental health came from. I always was speaking about suicide awareness, things like that, making songs called Suicide Awareness. I have it on iTunes right now, Suicide Awareness, if you check it out. And it wasn't until this last time, as you just mentioned, everything started getting crazy in everyone's life. And I had, I'm going through things as well. I'm human. I went through a lot, actually. And my emotional state got so low and so intense that it brought me all the way back to what I remember from childhood. And I'm an adult now. And so as conflicting as it was, the first thing I thought was, this isn't right. Something's not, I could see it. As a kid, I couldn't see it. And so I just learned to just accept it, which acceptance is actually a good thing in a way, I realized. So, thankful for that. But now I wanted to know. And so I started looking things up online. As you know, I read a lot. And so when I found out something about OCD and the possibility that it could be OCD, I learned a lot about OCD really fast. I actually discovered your channel, read a lot of books. I played basketball in Europe as well. So I was in France at the time alone. My family couldn't travel. So, and personally, for me, this may sound crazy to some people, it was a relief. To discover OCD was a thing was a relief because I realized that I'm not crazy and that everything that I was experiencing, all of my life wasn't just, I can't even, this is hard. This part is hard to explain, but it was refreshing, and, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that answers the question. I don't think that's pretty much it.
I think that a lot of people, especially, considering kind of the timeline of when you started suffering with this until finally figuring out, that is a really long time to struggle. And that's what most people do. I usually just tell people, you mean you just survived it until you found out and got the right help. And relief is usually one of the key things that comes first. At least I'm really not crazy. Because the horrible part about OCD is that it's not aligned with what you want, value, and desire, and all that stuff. But because you can't stop it, you somehow almost even try to identify with it. And so when you find out, actually, this isn't you, and this is just a mental illness, it can be relieving. It absolutely can.
Yeah, that was my experience, and I've realized it's a vast amount of OCD topics and umbrellas things can fall under, and I was just telling my wife not long ago, maybe a couple of days ago, I was saying, something that I think could be related to this whole OCD thing is whenever I remember throughout my 20s, I'm 32 now, I just turned 32. Whenever I would start to feel no inner resistance at all, I guess what some would refer to as peace, because I feel peace in life and times that I enjoy, but where there's nothing to worry about. It's like my mind is not feeling that. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes where I wouldn't even be having I don't know what you call it, excuse me for not knowing every term, OCD trip, because that's how minds are. I'm not always obsessing or things like that, but when it hits. It could be random. Like I told you, you go from late teens to now, at 31, I'm like, hey, what's going on? But excuse me, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Sorry.
You said you were telling your wife the other day.
Yes, sorry, thank you.
Okay.
And I was telling my wife that it seems like when everything was going right or inner peace, my mind would just go, but something could be wrong. Something. Or did you miss this? And in my turn, I think that's the part that I would like to not elaborate on the most about myself, because that helped me. Learning about OCD helped me realize that part. So now when I see it in life, the awareness of it is like everything. The awareness is everything. It's like I'm shining a light on it, and it's been in a dark place for so long, and then I shine a light right on it, and I'm okay. I don't know. Everybody's experience is different. I've had times where it didn't work that way instantly, but like you say, it becomes a daily practice, a daily lifestyle to just be aware and shine light on it. Like, nah, no, everything is okay. If that makes any sense.
It does. So everybody kind of calls their trips, or I used to call it the wave. And then some people call it like episodes. So, in having it for as long as you have before you actually realized it was, what would keep you afloat during the times that it was really prevalent?
To be honest, the majority of the times that I experienced was in my teenage years. And I remember one time, what was it? It was in Turkey. I was maybe like 25 or so. I was playing, so I hadn't felt an OCD trip or wave for a very long time. And now I realize content doesn't matter. But before you realize and read about OCD and everything, content was everything. So to be honest with you, from my personal experience, obsessing about things that really didn't bother me, I didn't really like it, but it didn't bother me. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be
Yes.
worried about we going to play a game. I thought everybody was worried about every little minute detail that could ever happen in the game that we're about to go play. Because we're athletes, so I didn't think about it. But I remember it was one time where I hadn't done anything. I had been in season. I definitely wasn't even drinking. Definitely wasn't doing any drugs or anything. And we got a drug test. And this was like I was playing probably the best basketball I've ever been playing. And I think that's what it was, looking back. And I was for like 2 months. I had this genuine, just inner, it wasn't like going around every day trip, but I had this genuine inner anxiety of like, what if you failed that drugs? I'm seeing stuff online, that I would laugh at or be scared to tell people that say, if you eat enough sesame seeds on a bun, but you might fail a drug. I'm like, oh no, I might fail a drug test, over something I seen online. And this is what's going on in my head. But obviously, I'm in season. I'm a husband. I'm feeling like I can't fall apart. I don't know what OCD is, so I just what I would do in those moments like that is just go about life. I don't really know an answer, but I know that being an athlete, I think playing basketball every day helped. I was getting a lot of exercise. I remember no matter how I was feeling, like when I would come out of practice, I was able to see the silliness. I don't want to say that and be insensitive, but to me, the silliness in my thinking patterns before I exercise or before I was able to, and then I think about the same thing and be like, yo, you was tripping, bro. You haven't done anything, and then that's when I learned about the emotional state is important also. So I guess I would say I hadn't really faced it since I was a teen until a couple months ago when, everything was going haywire in my life and I don't know what's going on with my career and all of that. My emotional state just went for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, I'm obsessing about everything to the point to where, like most people say the serenity prayer, a part about accepting the things you cannot change. That's just in the forefront of my head all day. Like, come on, man, that, some of the things you're tripping about, you can't do anything about. And that seems to bother you more. You go right. And even now, what's helped me deal with it is awareness, exercise, transparency like this. Like when you ask me, had I told anybody before, I say it's not like the forefront of my conversation just because I always advocate for mental health. I think most people who've been following me or really know anything about me, when they see me on this, it's not going to be a thing to them. That's why I'm just like, hey, let me go and step out because it can inspire and help people. You get what I'm saying? I realized there was many people who helped me when I found your channel. I'm looking at things and I'm saying, whoa, it's people who understand you exactly. It's people who they won't judge you, but they will show you some love. They might give you some pointers. They tell you, it's people. I said, man, that's amazing. It was, like I said, refreshing for me, and that's what I do.
When we get one of the things that we've been running the OCD peers groups this last year, and the thing that we hear the most is, we're sitting in chat rooms, but you know what I mean? I can't believe I'm sitting in a chat room with 5 other people that just get it. I don't have to explain to someone that I'm having sexual or violent intrusive thoughts and worry about how they're going to react. You can just say it and they're all like, like just had one of those earlier. But that's the beautiful thing about it. That's why we do the work that we do here at Game Changers, is so people can really, really understand that that they're not alone. And I think, and this is where I wanted to segue. It just kind of came to me as we were talking. I, certainly not an athlete of your caliber, but being in college and doing collegiate sports, I was an athlete in high school and then an athlete in college. And in college is when I found out that I had OCD, got severe, almost died by suicide. But that was a horrible situation to be kind of in this competitive arena where you're kind of not ever wanting anyone to know that something was wrong, because you got to be on top of, like, I ran cross country. So, you got to be, I suck though. So I don't really, no, we were in a division like 1AA. Wait, is that it? Yeah. Like 1AA. So basically our football team was Division 1 and all of us had to be Division 1. And so we got our asses kicked in every other sport. Because we got dragged to all these conference meets that were way out of our league. I would end the season every year like, you suck, you shouldn't even come back. But anyway, that was what was so hard. And so I wanted to ask you about that. It's, you were experiencing some of this stuff, like you said, when in your teens, and I imagine bleeding over into your college years. What was that like, being an athlete And, having all this stuff going on, but still having to have that kind of competitive edge and squash down all the emotional part of it.
I would say it was bittersweet in a way. The bitter part being obviously very, very uncomfortable, especially during those years. I think during those years, you're the most sensitive and fragile to the opinions around you. You're kind of basically shaping and molding yourself. And I went through kind of this major transition that was I was nobody to a lot of people, and then I started playing basketball, and for some reason became somebody to a lot of people. I'd always been playing basketball, but then I got good at it and notarized on a national scale. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was when that happened, it was like always, okay, what's this discomfort? But there's no way, I could tell anybody like, hey man, sometimes I'm just worried about the smallest thing, man, like really worried. There's no way I can explain that to them and they understand. Um, Growing up in South Carolina, I actually moved to North Carolina and lived with my AAU coach, whole story, whole thing. But before that, I wasn't really in the friend groups a lot. I didn't have a lot of friends or anything like that. So when people started liking me, that's the last thing on my mind was I was going to reveal anything or anything about any thoughts and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I say, playing ball was like therapeutic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helped me get better because I had no problem spending time in the gym. I had no desire to go to prom and all those things that people care about, no desire at all. I actually had a girlfriend. She was a pretty cool girl too, very pretty. A lot of people was asking her to prom. I literally let her go to prom with another guy. She was my girlfriend because I was just like, I have no interest in any of those things. It didn't become a part of me at the time when it was becoming a part of everybody else.
Yep.
I was a foot taller than everybody in middle school, had the same crooked teeth and stuff that I got now that people would make fun of me. So I was already used to not being with people, not need to be accepted. So when I started to get accepted, it became this kind of wax and wane of like, man, I can never really tell anybody or the real me, but this part of
Yes.
me that they think they know, they love, and that made me want to be better at basketball and work harder. And obviously we know that exercise helps with the blah blah blah. So yeah.
Mm. That's interesting. I could veer off into another topic on that, but I feel like we'd be here for another hour. Um, but mainly it's just pertaining to, I relate to what you just said so much that it's a relief to hear it. Just that, just almost the fear of bringing, I don't know if maybe this is relating as much, but the fear of bringing into what was really going on in my brain, um, terrified me that people would, first of all, I didn't know what was going on. And so, I'm having thoughts of like, you know, bestiality and HOCD and everything else, and harming and fear of schizophrenia and fear of AIDS and every other thing combined, right? And so to me, I just thought, and I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong because I knew it wasn't me, but I thought if people think this is me, all this stuff, then all this big facade that I had built is going to crumble, and all they're going to see is these thoughts. And
Yes.
that's what was so hard, and that's why I kept it a secret. And that was what at the end kind of almost destroyed me.
Mm-hmm.
But so before this last year, kind of this finally revealing that it was OCD, what was it like for you then? You're 32 now. What was it like through your 20s, just kind of navigating when the OCD trips would come up? Did you tell your wife about it? Did you tell anybody about it?
I never told anybody, and like I say, like through my 20s, I didn't experience it much, and when I did, I didn't think it wasn't like in my teen years. I felt though I would need to tell somebody. I felt more vulnerable. I kind of built up. I don't know if it works this way in the scientific world or whatever, but this is how I feel. I kind of built up this solid resilience toward being anxious at all, because of how I was as a teen and because I have came out of that or what I felt like came out of, or these are the words and terminology I developed over time. You know what I'm saying? Come out of, and so that's how I felt. I said, whatever I was experiencing when I was 13 through 16, that's crazy. I'm not going back to that anymore.
Oh
And
yeah.
so whenever something would happen in my 20s, like that what I explained at 25, that's an anomaly. It didn't happen much. But when it did, no, I didn't tell anybody. By that time, I realized this is I guess it's just how you are. I had learned enough about the world to realize that most people have something going on with them in general, whether they have a label for it or not. And so I kind of chalked it up as the, one of my cons out of a pros and cons list that every human has. Um, I didn't think much of it until I was going through something in my life to where I couldn't just chalk it up to, hey man, this is, it was like, man, I'm waking up at night and I'm bothered, and I know I'm bothered by what's going on in my life, but this can't be all. This can't be it.
Right.
So I guess I couldn't really answer that question because, except for no, I didn't tell anybody, but I didn't think it was a need to. It didn't feel the same as my earlier adolescent years.
That makes sense. So one kind of pivoting in another direction, putting you on all the spot here.
Okay.
But I mean, just in general, but like one of the most underrepresented facets of mental health is the male, men and mental health. And the fear around it, we had a gentleman on a couple weeks ago, actually, Kyle. So we touched on the subject with him too. So I'd love to touch on it with you as well. We don't have a lot of representatives, especially for OCD, that are male, that talk about, a lot of the taboo topics or a lot of the, the experience of having OCD, which then if you're not talking about it, then men feel scared to talk about it. And then they're like, you got like Christy over here, like with the banana up on the wall, talking about anything and everything. But, men, even though they relate to what I'm saying, don't necessarily relate to me as a woman. So tell me kind of what your goals are, what your vision would be as a father, a husband, a really strong athlete male coming out talking about this stuff that, I can tell you that the opposite of what everybody thinks is going to happen. The opposite is people are going to be like, I need to go talk to Marshall today. I need to tell him what's going on with me. I need to confide in him. I need support. And that's what's really going to happen. But, talk to me a little bit about what that's like.
For me, it's like I said about basketball in a way, it's a form of therapy. Mm-hmm. It's a form of release. It's also a form of ERP, exposure response prevention. And I say this outside of an actual mental illness arena and just in a comical arena, but I'm insane. Like I am. This is a couple years ago, when I was actually giving speeches to a lot of kids. Oh, I do public speaking as well. I gave speeches to like a lot of schools in the southeastern part of South Carolina. And during this time frame, I remember for like 3 months, I would only take freezing cold showers. Like, and I was just on this whole, face it thing. I always been like this though. I don't know. I have no idea why, but this is how I am. And that ties into the answer to your question, meaning this is just another way of me being me. Mm-hmm. If I say it, I want to help people. That's it. Like I play ball, I do all these things that have all these labels, and to be really transparent and honest with you, I don't like labels. The hardest thing about coming on this show is not about telling people about my life. It's about continuing to say that I quote unquote have something or I fit in a box, because I realized that before there was any psychology or any labels for these things, people may have been experiencing these same things with nothing to call it. So, I just have this thing in my mind. Maybe it's OCD related. I don't like fitting in boxes. And so I feel like I can help men. I want to help men with that. Like you say, my son, they need to be able to see. Me and my wife talked about that. We said, my wife is a wonderful woman. She's gorgeous, all of these things. I was afraid to tell her. When I did tell her, we talked about it. She said, she said, you know what? I don't really know about that, but I've got things in my own life. I'm glad you brought this to the forefront, because we had the deepest talks we ever had in our life. And we said, we want to create an environment for our children to where whatever it ain't nothing you can't talk to us about. You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of it just being a child, a lot of it being having anxiety, a lot of it being peer pressure. And if you're Black, if we being all the way 100, how we see it, that adds more sprinkles on top of it, because it's like there's no way you can tell somebody something's wrong with you. You already think society already thinks something's wrong with you, and so going to tell my parents or going to tell them, say, hey, you know what? I don't really know what's wrong with me, but sometimes when I get sad, I overly worry about things. I couldn't even summarize it like that when I was 13, but it wasn't happening. It was it was no way
Right.
that was going to happen. And so we said we want to create an environment where our children could come to us. That's something I want to do with this, is to just show gut. I think people with any kind of, if you say OCD, if some people say, hey, I just go through depression. If a woman just gave birth and she said she's going through postpartum, all of these are things messing with your mind. If you continue to face these things, you got guts. It's anybody that would see this as comical, they're the joke. You get what I'm saying? So it's a to finally answer the question, it's a double-edged sword for me. Is I'm putting myself out there and showing myself I got guts. And also for the people who follow me and are gonna follow me, they're gonna say, what can we say about that's an example to follow. He's not perfect and he's not pretending to be perfect, but he's got guts and he's got talent, or he's got whatever it is that I continue to accumulate and build. The content, much like OCD, isn't important. It's the message that's being sent with this to men, to women, to minorities, to people who ain't minorities. It doesn't really matter. You get what I'm saying? This is the last thing I would say is I like communities. It's a good thing to be able to communicate with a community of people. Everybody's searching for a place to fit in. So if you got somewhere you fit in, don't diminish it. If you find out you have OCD and it bothers you, and there's a whole community of that. You got OCD Gamechangers, you got all of that. Go to places where you fit in. That's what I've been doing before with playing ball. That's what I've been doing before with hip hop and the culture. That's what I've been doing before with my family and all of that. I got single friends. I don't hang with them as much. I don't care if they see this because they know I'm being honest. I love them. I love people. But I hang with things conducive to my environment. And this is a community of people, wonderful people. So that's another reason why I do it, is because it's another part to be a part of being, another way to be a part of a community that matters and makes me feel more purposeful and like I matter. And I know I matter, but it's still, you get what I'm saying? I don't want to say that in a depressing way. I know I matter, but we all are searching for purpose in life if everybody's honest. And it just gives me more. I'm like I'm multi-purpose. So it just gives me another one.
It's the healing power of belonging. When you belong to, whether that is belonging to exactly what you say, when you belong to a community of people, when you belong to a religion, when you belong to a family, when you belong. I mean, there's lots of families that you're like, they say you belong and then they're just shitty, but but you know what I'm saying, like,
yeah,
when you really, really belong somewhere and I am accepted and loved no matter what, that is the healing part. And I think that what is amazing about the community that you're building and have built is taking all of your talents that you do and focusing in on them and making people belong to what you do and to what you're good at. And that's how you build your own community.
Yes. I actually was doing that before I knew that. I actually just figured out, hey, this is what you're doing, exactly what you just said. But I've been doing it for a while before, because it's about uplifting people. I think everybody's connected. As you know, I read a lot of spiritual stuff. You know, it doesn't matter what you believe. I can relate to you and talk to you on anything. But I know in a lot of Eastern faiths and a lot of the ancient faiths, everybody being one, everything. I believe that. I don't have to believe it in the religious sense. I get the concept of what it's saying, and I believe that. So if you're not uplifting people, this is my own view. Please, people, don't shame me. This is how I feel. If you're not uplifting people in some way, at some point in time in this earth, whether it be physical, whether it be metaphysical, spiritual, whether you give them financial, whether you tell them something that they can, what is the purpose, the full purpose of being here? I think enjoying life is one. I genuinely think enjoying life. I think that's what this platforms like this are for, to let people know, like, that's another reason why I want to come out. Yeah, I enjoy my life. That's why it's so hard for me to answer these questions, because I want to talk about the terrors and horrors, and I have no problems doing it. But I want to shine light on how awesome my life has been from facing whatever, from just facing what I like to call it a demon. That's my terminology. Sorry, but the facing your demons, facing the dark side, whatever. And that's where the beauty of life is at. I lost my train of thought again. Sorry. What was I saying? I go on tangents. I told you, me and you are a mirror match. If you don't, I ever apologize to me, because I'm the same way.
I can't remember exactly where we were threading back to.
For anybody live watching,
it was, wait. If you're not doing something,
yes. Yes.
I knew I get it. Peer
If you're
support.
not doing something to uplift others, you have to at some point in time reevaluate your time on this planet because others are you. So at a time where you need uplifting, don't be out trying to uplift others. You can't drive a car with an empty tank. But when you get full, what are you doing with this full tank surrounded by people with empty ones? It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's hard for me to sleep at night. And if I'm being fully honest, it feeds my ego and makes me feel better about myself when I give myself to other people.
No, it's so true. And Marshall, when I first started doing the advocacy, and fun fact, everybody, when I first met Marshall, like we just connected on a call or something, or we connected over email, and I'm all like, just so you know who I am, like I don't want you to think I'm like this weird girl just reaching out or whatever. And he was like, oh, I've already watched your videos. And I thought that was so awesome. And it goes to my point, which is to validate what you're saying is when I first started doing these videos, I did it for me. I did it because I was alone and scared and I needed to find people. Um, and then it morphed into now I'm doing it for them. And to be honest with you, a lot of my videos and the content that I do, I'm doing them on that day because I'm struggling with that. But so it is a little bit like backward selfish. But now I'm doing videos because I didn't even realize I was going to be able to create community. I had no idea the power I would have. And I don't mean that in a bragging way. I meant the power of the lived experience. The power of the lived experience can move mountains. And just by me getting on a video and talking about a groinal or something, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, like we all have something in common, even if it's awful. So I wholeheartedly agree. My life is dedicated to service and to others. And at the same time, it benefits me. I learn more about myself, and the more I can learn about my own journey, the more I can help others learn about theirs. That's what I feel like. That's the give and take.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Much agreed.
So, okay, we're right at 30 minutes. I do want to say I really appreciate you bringing up the mental health and minority piece. I'd love to have you back on for a fireside chat sometime, and let's just dig into that because the OCD community is desperate to learn how we can connect more, how we can support the Black community, especially. There's so many people out there suffering, and just like you said, it's people just do not want to come forward and talk out loud about it because of stigma and everything else around it. I learned so much last month with our Black History Month campaign. So love to have you back on, and whatever we can do to support your cause and just align with you and the mission of helping to reach OCD. Now, last question would be, people are listening. They're probably like fired up and excited now, and they're like, I got to do something to support people now. My life is meaningless. No, I'm just kidding.
Or either mad at me, like, who does this guy think he is? What is up? I was just trying to give an insight into my mind, man. I wasn't trying to offend anybody. Everybody's life has meaning, for sure.
Everybody knows me. They know I'm just messing with you. But talking to you gets me fired up. It gets me excited. And people hearing what you have to say may think, this is exactly what I want to do, Marshall. But I don't know where to start. And I don't know. I'm scared to start. What advice would you give people if they're right there right now and they don't know what to do?
I'm reading a book right now. I can't remember which one because I read a bunch at one time. It may be The Richest Man in Babylon. But it's talking about accumulating riches, but the context still applies here. Everyone is looking for something that they don't have to get what they want when we have tools around us. So if you say, I don't know what to do to help others, I would look first within myself and say, what ways in life have I needed help? I've had people give me therapy like this, or I've had someone for no reason, it'd be an old lady, it's not a woman hitting on me or anything, just say, hey, you're a handsome young man, or hey, you look, and it have the same effect. The therapy I paid for have the same effect as somebody smiling at me and telling me I look nice. You don't have to be a preacher. You know what I'm saying? Start in your community, start in your household, start with yourself, because the whole metaphor of what I said is self and other are the same. That's why I believe, and I'm not a super religious guy, but I know a lot of people are. I believe that when we have the 10 Commandments and then Jesus came and said, no, there are only two, love thyself, love thy neighbor. Even Jesus understood you can't do one without doing the other. He always spoke in parables. So if you truly love in yourself, when you see someone else hurting, the empathy will speak. It may not speak how mine does. It may not be as deep as mine. It may go way deeper than mine does. But if you're truly loving yourself, it's going to speak. And then vice versa. If you're seeking to ask out this question, look within yourself, like I'm doing. It's other people who I probably can help in ways that I don't even know because things I haven't experienced. All I'm doing is using all I've experienced in life, going to talk to people. I'm trying to get public speaking. I don't have a platform. I go tell the people when I meet. I tell my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I make jokes about it. I say, man, you might have OCD. He said, why you keep talking about that, boss? I say, man, because I found out this is a real thing. Yep. It's a real thing, and it's a spectrum on it. So you may not be like somebody else. Just as though someone may have what is it when you think something is gross? I forget the name. Like if the doorknob is gross, like and you don't want to touch it. Yes, contamination, yes. OCD. You get what I'm saying? If you say that, people automatically just think that. I think alone advocacy is needed for that reason.
Oh, yes.
You know, like so that's why I like to tell my friends just saying, hey man, if you really start being aware of yourself, you'll find something that's like, man, what the hell is this? Mm-hmm. If you're honest, you don't have to have OCD. I don't care who you are. A guy who I told wasn't you, because I didn't tell many people when I first knew, was my old AAU coach. I used to live with him, part of the story I was saying, and blah, blah. I told him, first thing he said was, well, I feel crazy in a world where everybody's crazy. Now, he's being blunt, and it was a personal conversation, so he's not insulting anyone, and I understood exactly what he was saying. Mm-hmm. Why would I beat myself up about something that everybody's experiencing, even intrusive thoughts? It's not as though people without OCD don't experience them, correct? Mm-hmm. Correct. It's how you view it, how the brain is structured, or what's the genetic. I know we don't fully know, but what causes OCD, is that correct? But they would believe it to be genetic. Mm-hmm.
That's what I understand it to be. Yeah.
That's how I understand it as well. I want to make sure I speak clear. I'm not going to say what is and what isn't, but from my understanding, something that's genetic, you can't help. And then I study things, genetics, epigenetics, how it affects and how it transits down. I'm not a genius on it. Maybe I'm not even gonna say those words, but yet I'm not an expert. What I will say is, if you think about from a minority perspective, if we just pinpoint on that for a second, and we think about the things that have been passed down through genetics, when you think about worry and anxiety from slavery and
generational.
Your children being beaten and raped. I'm pretty sure it's a lot of people that have been passed to them. If it's genetic and they can't say anything, because also been passed down to them what is genetics is not seeking information because they didn't have it accessible to them. They use their environment to learn instead of looking through books. And that's another reason why I am the way I am. I'll give you more insight on me the more we talk. I always heard, I don't know how transparent I could be, but you told me to be real. So I'm going to say something one time for the sake of this. Just for the sake of this saying, damn it, I'm going to say it. But say it. I heard as a kid, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. Mm-hmm. And it pissed me off. And I've had a closet full of books ever since.
Mm-hmm. That's a horrible thing to say. It's a hear as a child.
But what it is, though, as horrible as that is, what I try to do is, I'm a super emotional guy, so I always try to look at something outside of emotion. As much as it hurts me to hear that, I take my emotion out and I say, what are they trying to say? Mm-hmm. These people are conditioned to not go get the information that they need because when they needed it, it wasn't accessible to them. Mm-hmm. That's what I hear. It's not that one could hear it as they're saying black people are more stupid than other people. Maybe they were trying to say that, but what I took out of it was, why would they say, I am black. I got these homies that they're talking about. You get what I'm saying? It's like I don't want to fit into a stereotype of having big lips and like a watermelon, but I got big lips and like watermelon. So even though I don't want to fit the stigma, I know it came from somewhere. Say, why are they saying this? My homies don't like to read. We are the ones with the worst grades. You know what I'm saying? I do kind of just cling to basketball. I'm smart as hell. Whenever there's a threat of me not being on the basketball team, I make better grades than the valedictorian. Why don't I have the internal discipline to do this often? Do I have it? And if I do, why the hell am I exercising? It is conditioning. And I come from a good home. That's how I was able to break free. But the thing about it is, most of the minority homes are broken up. So they got it stacked on top of them. Now you don't even have a father or no direction or no stability to help you break free. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yes.
crazy.
Well, and what I'm hearing and learning about you is that when you heard something that hurtful and confusing and irritated, you took that emotion and almost like blasted it out of the universe and
I
said,
told
"Real."
you,
I'm like this.
just like those,
You're like, really? Watch this.
yeah, just like those cold showers. That's how I've always been.
Yeah.
I don't want
And
somebody
then
that, yeah.
and
Go
then in
ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
way inspiring other people to who may have heard that as a child or may have experienced that or are still experiencing it today. You're showing them it doesn't have to be that way, and we have an opportunity to change that.
You are changing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just, the last thing I would say is a segment I use in some of my talks when I go give a lecture or speech to some kids, and I always bring up Courage the Cowardly Dog. I probably won't use it much anymore because I don't think they watch it anymore. But um, on the surface, Courage looks like a coward. I rap, I make metaphors. I just realized at some point in time the whole reference of figurative language of the name. He was afraid of everything, but he always was the one saving the day.
Mm-hmm.
He really wasn't cowardly at all. He just appeared to be. But if you look, he had more courage than anyone. My whole point with that is to be vulnerable, to face your demons, to look in the mirror. And that is true courage. Anything other than that is, I don't want to say cowardly because some people may not be there yet, but I'm trying to make a point. So I'll say cowardly. I'm not trying to insult anyone. And that's something that it just correlates with everything you're saying, even what we just talked about. Me as a kid, when I heard these things, I have this Courage the Cowardly Dog in me because I'll be scared as hell. I lied to you when we started this broadcast. I was scared as hell. I, I lied.
I
I
know
freaking
I
lied
asked you.
because it was a natural response because I
Yes.
don't even it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do. I know what I'm doing this for. That's a bigger purpose. When I didn't have that purpose, I would stay in the shadows. That's why I preached that
Right.
whole thing when I said have a meaning, and that's why I said that because I'm like, man, here it is. You're scared again. Had a young girl ask me. I said last story. This will be quicker. A young girl from my hometown asked me. She said, "I just had my first collegiate basketball game. I've got these crazy butterflies in my stomach. How do I get rid of them?" My first question to her, off instinct, is, "Why do you want to get rid of them?" That's part of that's the fun. That's part of
It's
the
true.
fun. You know, if
Yes.
any of those, I don't know, man. I could go on all night, man, because
If you
this is
don't
what I
have
like to do.
butterflies, then you don't. If you don't have butterflies about it, then you're not. I don't know how to put what I'm trying to say. Then
They're
you
the
don't
best
care
moment.
about it. Then you don't care about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was also part of what I said to her. I said it means you care.
Yeah.
It means you
Exactly.
care. And if it's an abundance of it in the context that we were speaking, I would say it means you were unprepared. If it's too much anxiety, it means when the game before the game you didn't practice as much. But if you gave your all, if you were doing your best, that anxiousness is readiness.
Mm-hmm.
You just prepared.
Mm-hmm.
The best feelings that before you go on a roller coaster, same thing. When you fall in love, same thing. All these amazing thrills throughout life come with the same feeling. Why would we want to hide from it?
And then we do the exposure, and then we're actually playing the game is the exposure, and you realize it. You realize it's real, but it's not.
What you were not what you thought it was.
I will tell you, I would have done anything in college to get rid of my damn anxiety before my races because I literally would be in the porta potty until the gun almost went off.
But
They'd
like
be
Courage,
like,
you
they'd
did
be
it.
like, Christy, gun's going
You
off
went
in
out
30
there and did
seconds.
it. That's awesome to me. Courage the Cowardly Dog. You went out there and did it. You may have been in there, but you went out and did the races.
I did not so well, my friend, but I still crossed the finish line every time.
You did it. I know a lot of guys in basketball. I wouldn't say names because I probably can't remember them. They quit, and I know that's why. They
Oh
could have
yeah,
made it through the hard college, but they quit because they were going through something and they couldn't deal with the fact that people would see them going through it.
that's actually what I was just about to say. Is a lot of times too the butterflies, and if we're talking about talking out loud about stuff like we're doing right now, and some of this hard stuff, the butterflies, the fear, the anxiety is less about speaking it out loud and more about what you're worried other people are going to think.
On the thing, yep.
And we talk about conditioned all of us have been conditioned to stay quiet about mental health. It's the shame on the family. It's the shame in your, whatever culture. I mean, I'm from the South. And so it was like, you know what? You
Yeah.
don't talk, you don't want the neighbors to find out anything. And so the last thing we wanted, and probably still they don't want, I mean, it's too late now. It was for everybody to blast out that I had a suicide attempt and I have a mental illness. I knew of one person in my entire family, one person at that point that had an identifiable mental illness. One freaking person in my whole family? No. It wasn't even until the last couple months that I found out more and more and more people, but we never talked about it. And so here I am thinking that, thinking that I'm the only one in the family. And the same thing that you were saying is, different, but at the same time, in the mental health aspect, it's generational. It's passed down. If we don't know, or we aren't honoring generational trauma, generational, disorders or whatever, then we're just out there flailing thinking we're alone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly that. Feeling alone is like you said, not telling anybody is the real poison, or not saying anything about it is the real. I actually worked out with my friend today and told him something similar and didn't even think about it. I said something similar to this conversation. It may not have been OCD related, but anybody that knows me knows this is the type of stuff I like to talk about. And I said something to him and he said, I feel like that all the time. I thought I was the only one. And I feel like I couldn't tell nobody. I said, feeling like you couldn't tell nobody is the real trick. That's the devil's trick right there.
I like how you called it poison. I think that is so accurate. When you said
It
poison
is.
earlier, it's the real poison. I'm going to write that down if that's okay.
Please do.
Yep.
Because
I'll
you
follow
holding
you
it
on
in.
Instagram. All right. Well, this was energetic and energizing. My pen's not working. There we go. Got it. Thank you for being here, Marshall. It's so good to talk to you. I love your passion. I love your drive. I really hope we can work together in the future. I think you're going to bring a lot of hope and breaking down a bunch of walls and giving people the drive and the letting go of the shame to be able to talk out loud about this. So I appreciate that about you, and I just appreciate you.
And I appreciate you and your platform, anyone tuning in and anyone a part of OCD Gamechangers. Salute to everything you got going on. I would love to work together in the future. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we'll have you back on anyway. We obviously have lots to talk about.
Yes, that is true.
Everybody who joined in, thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this. It is always so great to know that you are the community that helps everybody feel a little bit less alone, because I think I tweeted a little bit like, silence is the real poison. Does that sound like a good quote to you? Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna put your name on it.
Yeah. Quote me on that.
So I just appreciate all of you showing up today. I hope that you got something out of what we talked about. Thank you so much. I hope so much to see you at our event, May 29th. Save the date. I will be opening up ticket sales on Monday. And here is the cool thing about it that I didn't disclose. The first 2 weeks are the early bird. And here's the thing. If you register early, you get to submit a topic. You get to submit something that you want us to meet you with. Support. Is that trauma? Is that the pandemic? Is that LGBTQ? Is that different themes? Is that for therapists? Is it burnout? For parents? Is it, I need help learning how to support my child? Early bird special, you get to submit the topic and you get to be part of planning this event. It's going to be so awesome. We have a fireside chat coming up in a few weeks with Dr. Ruth Ives. Woohoo! So we will see you then. And thank you so much for being part of this community. We couldn't do what we do without you. I did not mean to rhyme. Bye.